I'm beginning to understand that only in silence will God speak to us. And, it's something that I've kind of understood in the past. I've kind of understood the importance of being in solitude at times, and the importance of allowing to God, or allowing yourself to hear God, and doing that through silence, doing that through being alone. But I'm really just starting to understand more how current society almost doesn't want us to be alone. Current society doesn't want us to ever experience any solitude, any time to process our own thoughts, and any time to allow God to speak to us. Because, it's something that I'm understanding, that God will only speak to us while we're in an empty room. Throughout the Bible, there's so many different stories where God spoke to people, but it was never when they were around a crowd. It was never when they were in the presence of so many other people. It was when they were alone. So while we're alone, when we have the absence of other people's voices, that's when we can hear God's voice. But I'm really starting to understand how much society, how much modern technology, how much so many of the influences that we have today, they almost don't want us to experience any silence throughout the day. They don't want us to experience any solitude. It's become something that seems awkward. It's become something that seems uncomfortable, when I don't think it should be. I think that spending time alone with your thoughts is something that should be valued. It's something that should be looked upon as a luxury rather than a discomfort. And, when I say that, I'm really specifically talking about social media, and how social media, and just like the different technologies that we have today, any moment of downtime that we have, it's something that's filled with something else. It's filled with someone else's voice. It's filled with someone else's opinion. It's filled with thousands upon thousands of opinions of other people. So much information that's ultimately not important to us. So when I say that only in silence will God speak to us, I mean in the sense that I think it's important that we recognize that we need to allow silence for ourselves, and then God will speak to us. We need to put ourselves in an empty room so that we can hear God's voice. We need to silence every other voice so that we can hear His. And in doing so, this is something that I noticed today, almost how you almost seem a bit out of place when you just have a moment of downtime and you're not doing anything with them. When you're just allowing yourself to process anything that's just happened. When you're allowing yourself to just think for a moment. It seems a bit out of place, and it's something I noticed today, but that's a bit crazy if you think about it. Just sitting in silence is something that's now not normal. It's something that's not the status quo, it's a rarity. I think it's important that we try to instill some of that downtime back in our lives. That's not to say that, never use social media, that you should, delete all these things completely, because I don't think that's the right answer, like, all the time. I think it ultimately depends on a case-by-case scenario and what you use it for. But I think it's important that even in that usage, we allow ourselves downtime. We allow ourselves time without any sounds, without any voices, without other people's influences. Just to sit in our own thoughts. Just to sit in the presence and the peace that we have in God. Because the best way I can explain this is that in heaven, heaven's an eternal thing. In heaven, you won't want anything. In heaven, you'll just have. But I think so society, or at least the way that we've been brought up with modern technology, has almost convinced us that not having problems is a problem. Not having conflict is something that should be resolved. Which is a bit paradoxical in a sense, but it's almost that you always need something going on. You always need something to latch onto, always need something to pay attention to, instead of just allowing yourself to be present in the moment. So I think it's important that we allow ourselves to be present in the moment more. We allow ourselves the downtime, we allow ourselves the peace and the tranquility and just the wonder of just existing in space, existing right here and right now. Because I think that when you really look around at yourself, when you look around at all your surroundings, life really is beautiful. And it may not be beautiful in the, traditional sense, but it really just is. Like, even just looking beyond the camera right now, there's chairs I see, there's a laptop I see, there's boxes I see. But, almost in an untraditional way, just the way that everything is here right now. The way that the chair is here right now, the way that the table is here right now, the way that it's all present, I think that can be a very beautiful thing. So it's almost allowing ourselves to experience that beauty and allowing ourselves to be a part of it. Allowing ourselves to almost flow like the water, but be as still as a tree. It's about instilling that presence in your day-to-day life and allowing yourself time to just sit and relax. Because I don't think that it's possible that our minds, that our spirits can relax when we're constantly being fed information. When we're constantly being fed things that we could either agree or disagree on, things that we constantly need to think about. Instead of just allowing ourselves to process everything that's already happened. So, I have a Bible verse that goes to the topic of this video pretty well. It's taken from Mark 1, verse 35. And it says, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed." So this verse, even Jesus, the perfect man, the only perfect man, he could have prayed in the house, he could have prayed in the presence of others, but he went to a solitary place and he prayed. I think that this verse is very telling that if the perfect man goes to a solitary place to pray, if the perfect man still finds time for himself, time to be alone, at least in a physical sense, because we're always in the presence of God, but be alone and pray, why don't we do the same for ourselves? So, I hope you took something from this video, and thank you for watching.